With so much current tension, you may not recall that North Korea and the United States never formally concluded the Korean War of the 1950s with a peace treaty. David Martin takes a new look at an old battle that tested Americans to the limit.
You may have seen these pictures before. American fighting men pushed to their limits and beyond.
We took turns sleeping in the daytime. It was too cold at night.
But unless you were there, you have no idea.
Survival is probably the strongest of our instincts, and we all just did what we had to do to survive.
Now 90, Warren Weidhahn was a young Marine at Chosin Reservoir in North Korea in the brutal winter of 1950.
People can't imagine 40, 50 below zero. No. Okay. Everything froze. Vehicles froze, rifles froze, people froze. If you got wounded, you couldn't walk, you froze to death.
Turkey and the trimmings, courtesy of the U.S. Air Force.
It was Thanksgiving, and the legendary General Douglas MacArthur had turned the tide of battle.
Columns of transport barrel northward against a disheartened enemy.
North Korean troops who had invaded the South were in full retreat, and MacArthur's forces were in hot pursuit, pushing toward the Yalu River and the border with China.
We went into the mountains towards the Yalu. MacArthur had said that he would have the Marines home by Christmas.
And you believed it?
We believed it.
What he really wanted to do is cap off his military career with this great victory, uniting all of Korea.
In his new book, On Desperate Ground, Hampton Sides calls Chosin Reservoir the Korean War's greatest battle.
It's a battle that really asks the question, how much can a human being endure?
It's a human endurance story that begins with human folly.
Human folly and human arrogance.
MacArthur ignored intelligence reports that tens of thousands of Chinese troops had infiltrated into North Korea and were laying in wait for the Americans.
The Chinese were so good at this, traveling only at night. They would literally strap themselves to trees and nap during the day so that they couldn't be seen.
The Marines were moving north along a single road that twisted higher into the mountains up to the Chosin Reservoir, which was supposed to be just a way station on their way to the Yalu.
This was a kind of a perfect trap because they had to go single file up this very narrow road. Any commander knows this is a terrible way to move because you're strung out.
The Chinese sprang the trap on the night of November 27th.
We heard bugles and whistles, and the Chinese came pouring over the mountain in front of us. Thousands firing and shooting, coming down in the valley towards us. Every weapon we had was firing. The Chinese, nothing stopped them. They just kept coming.
It sounds like the classic human wave.
They overwhelmed the weapons that we had, and pretty soon we ran out of ammunition.
The Marines had air cover, so during the day the Chinese would retreat back into the hills to avoid the bombs.
But as soon as night comes, here come the Chinese all over again.
Their job was to annihilate us. Every night, as soon as it got dark, they attacked. And en masse, right into the lines, hand-to-hand fighting.
Boy, that must have been a feeling of dread when the sun's going down.
Oh yeah, we knew that they were coming.
General Oliver Smith, the Marine commander, estimated his 13,000 men were surrounded by 100,000 Chinese troops.
They have to begin to think about a word that the Marines do not like, which is the word withdrawal or retreat.
We didn't call it retreat. We never call it retreat.
When General Smith was asked if he was retreating,
he said, retreat, hell. We're just advancing in another direction.
But whatever you call it, they were yielding the field to the enemy.
But the point was to quit the field with honor. I think that's why the Marines to this day view the Chosin Reservoir as one of the great battles in their history because they had been put into an impossible position and they had to extricate themselves from this trap.
The Marines retraced their route to the sea along that single winding road, with Chinese shooting down on them. They carried their casualties with them, but as the number of wounded continued to pile up, they had to make room on the trucks by burying the dead. What kind of shape were these guys in?
They haven't slept in days. They're dirty, they're hairy, they're shell-shocked. All of them are wounded, if not by battle wounds, then by frostbite.
Oh, sure, I know.
The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Joseph Dunford, keeps a picture of one of those Marines on his office wall.
That's my dad. He was a 19-year-old private first class.
A 19-year-old who was already a combat veteran by the time his unit reached Chosin Reservoir.
He turned 20 the night of 27 November 1950.
The night of the attack.
At UDME. That's when he turned 20 years old.
Along with the rest of the Marines, Dunford's father held on through 5 nights of Chinese human wave attacks and then made the bitter march out.
He did suffer a pretty severe case of gangrene and frostbite.
So now you've got these pictures sort of watching you as you do your job over there.
Deliberately so. My dad's picture, particularly because it's so personal, kind of reminds me of the responsibility we have to the young men and women that are out there.
It's been 68 years since the Battle of Chosin Reservoir, and it, like General Dunford's father, still lives.
There is something spiritual about the Chosin Reservoir.
Spiritual, that's not a word I would associate with a battle.
I think that's what it's become. It's a battle that kind of characterizes what Marines have been through history and what they ought to be in the future.
A battle in which the Marines suffered 1,000 dead and wounded. A battle that drove American forces out of North Korea.
You think the sacrifices they made at Chosin mattered?
I can tell you what my father thinks. The sacrifices that he and his fellow Marines made were worth it.